All right, friends, thanks for being here tonight as we talk about how to track your macros. And thanks for watching if you're watching the recording thereafter. So, first off, obviously, I can only see just me and Haley right now. But who here, when you got first started, whether it was with me or just tracking macros in general, who was like, this shit seems impossible? It seems very confusing and overwhelming. Was it easy for you? Was it hard for you? Anybody have anything they want to share about that? Their experience with tracking macros initially?
Uh, this is Dexter. I'll go first, but
Yeah.
it was definitely hard for me because I was trying hard to like get everything perfect,
Mm.
like find the exact like meat, like from the like with the specific brands and everything and all that, stuff like that. And then sometimes I'd have some meals where it was like hard to find them in like the MyFitnessPal app. Like if I ate at my like family's place, we eat Haitian food, and then you don't always find all those types of foods
Yeah.
in the app. So I just kind of gotta had to like figure out the closest thing to it, stuff like that. So it was definitely hard at first.
Yeah.
Sometimes it still is hard if I eat something different, but it's gotten easier.
Good. Good. And yeah, I mean, especially eating, I mean, not just Haitian food, not just, food of that nature that might not be as consistent on MyFitnessPal, but just, going over to your family's house and eating in general. Obviously, they're not keeping your macros in mind. Uh,
Right.
so it definitely presents a challenge. Even cooking yourself and figuring out all the different ingredients to it and how much everything is already a challenge, let alone if you're doing it at somebody else's house. And,
Yeah.
ultimately, none of us here besides myself are in comp prep, so there's no reason to be so meticulous that you have to know the exact macros of it. But by tracking your macros consistently on your own day to day anyway, that's what gives you the education in terms of you understand the value of food. And so then whenever you do go eat your Haitian food or anything else, you automatically have an understanding. You can tell if this is cooked in oil or not. So okay, boom, you can estimate that this is going to have X amount of fat in it. Is this a leaner meat? Is this a more of a fattier meat? Is this a lot of carbs or just a little bit of carbs? And really, until you actually track your macros consistently and start understanding the value and portions, and like this is what 45 grams of carbs looks like from rice versus potatoes versus whatever else. Once you actually start doing that, it definitely makes it a lot easier at your families to be a little bit more consistent with what it is that you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yep, yep, and that's exactly that's what I've seen start to happen. Like
Yeah.
I'm just better at kind of eyeballing it and
Yeah.
making better choices without tracking all the time.
Well, and now,
Overall,
I'm sorry. Keep going.
I was gonna say overall I've gotten better. I could still do better. I still can improve.
Yeah. Well, but so I mean, you're a great example of kind of where everybody should aspire to get to a certain extent. You've been doing this with me for about 2 years now. And I think that you're to a point where if you wanted to leave and just you can intuitively eat and stay within 5 pounds of where you're at right now. You could intuitively eat, understanding how much food you need on a daily basis, and then you would know how to adjust things to either gain weight and gain muscle or to shred up a little bit. And that's kind of where I want everybody to build head is to understand the value and the macros of food so that it becomes very, very easy. And you don't have to always track. Like I'm sure at this point, you wouldn't even have to track your macros and you could come pretty damn close to what it is that you're doing. Now, obviously, tracking allows you to be a little more on the money with it, and so especially if you're working towards a really specific goal, then what gets measured gets managed. But yeah, thanks for sharing though, Dexter. Anybody else have anything at the moment? Alyssa, not to call you up, but I know that you've been struggling with tracking your macros a little bit. So that's why we're part of the reason why we're diving into this, but it's a very common thing to struggle with this up front and kind of figuring out. Do you have anything you want to share at the moment about it? Not to put you on the spot. Say no if not.
I mean, I think it's mostly just like understanding like the way you calculate it and things like that, and then still trying to know and get to understand MyFitnessPal because
Yeah.
it's not really like, even though I put in how many calories I'm supposed to have a day, it's like somehow not fully getting to that number. So
Yes. So
it's just yeah.
We'll kind of play with the app here in a little bit as well. So I'll share my screen and kind of show you. It's from the desktop, so it looks a little bit different than from the actual phone app, but it's all pretty much the same stuff on there. So we're going to dive in a little bit of that. So I want to spend majority of the time kind of playing around with that and kind of showing you guys some different stuff on there. Because like for instance, like I know if you went in there and put I'm X amount of weight, I want to be X amount of weight. and it gives you a recommended macro count or calorie count, then you're like, okay, that's not anything what I had, my diet plan, whatever the case is. Or even on that, like, you have to go change your percentages. So whenever you enter your specific calories you're supposed to be eating, it only allows you, unless you have the premium version, it only allows you to change it by 5%. So, my protein might supposed to be 200 grams, but it's only allowing me to enter in there 210 or like 190. So then you kind of have this range. So that's why, like, it's nice that if you can get those numbers spot on, but ultimately, if you know what macros you're supposed to be hitting from what I'm giving you, then that's the number you're trying to hit anyway. Obviously, it makes it easier if it says 200 protein, 200 carb, 100 fat, if that was your numbers, to see that. But if you know exactly what you're supposed to be hitting, via what I said, then that's really all you really need to be focused on with that. But like I said, we'll kind of get into that and show you how to adjust that to be as close to possible as you can be. But then obviously the food entries is always the toughest thing. Also, a couple of the downsides about MyFitnessPal. Now, there are other apps out there for this. Like, my wife likes to use a different one. I don't really like the app that she uses. I don't even know what it's called. I think it's My Macros Plus. But MyFitnessPal has been around for a lot of years now, at least 10 or 15 years. So they're definitely leading the game in it, but there's still downfalls on it. Currently, I don't know if you guys have the unpaid version, the free version, but now they have ads running on it. So that's fantastic. I don't know if you've noticed that. Might just be me, but so that's irritating. What else? Oh, and then obviously MyFitnessPal is like Wikipedia. Anybody can go on there and enter, chicken breast has 1,000 grams of fat for 1 ounce. Like, you can go type in any sort of silly stuff and it can be very, very confusing. So if you type in grilled chicken breast, you're going to see 100 different entries. And then so figuring out the right one is obviously hard to do as well. But the good thing is, once you get it entered, so once you find the chicken breast that's very closely aligned to what I have in terms of macros, it's always saved in your MyFitnessPal. So once you have your diarrhea food, essentially, it always stays there. So the next time you type in grilled chicken breast, the first thing that pops up is going to be the one that you've clicked on and you utilized before. So, just like with anything else, the more work you put into it up front, the easier it becomes long-term. So now I can go type in pretty much any food that I eat fairly regularly. And even if I haven't had it in a few months, it's still logged in there from months ago. And so I don't have to go searching, up and down to find it. Only if I'm doing brand new foods or something I haven't really logged before. But before we kind of get into looking at some things and I share my screen, anybody else have anything they want to share about, MyFitnessPal, or just tracking your macros, struggles or ways you kind of overcame anything?
I was gonna say now I plan it out like in MyFitnessPal, like my meals for the week, and it's super easy to like use the scan a barcode feature that they have to instead of typing in the entire name, and it doesn't come up with there's a couple foods that it doesn't come up with, but then I just search and find the one that's closest to that. So that scan a barcode feature is really helpful too.
It is very, very helpful to use that as well. And like you said, sometimes it's not on there, but then it still saves you a lot of the work because now you're only having to search and find a couple of them versus everything. So yeah, it's good that you use that scan the barcode one. Anybody else have anything they want to share with it?
I like to I make whatever the meal is and then take a picture of it and then save it in there for later because I eat the same stuff all the time.
Oh, you mean you take a picture of what you entered into MyFitnessPal?
Yeah, well, no, you take a picture of the meal and you store it so when you look at it, you can tell if it's the same or
That
not.
could be the premium.
I don't know.
What is it?
I said it could be because we pay for it too. I don't know if you can
Oh,
do that.
that's a cool function. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So you can take a pic. Does it track your macros just based off of the picture?
Yeah, you can do it that way too.
It's not always accurate though. Sometimes.
Yeah. I bet so. But that's still interesting though. Maybe I should dabble in paying for it, especially if I'm helping kind of coach on it a little bit. But that's good to know though. I might have to buy that and then.
You used to be able to share between. That's one of the reasons we paid for it because we could share meals between users, and you can't do it anymore. They took that away,
which is very irritating because that's something. Whereas, like for instance, Alyssa right now, who's been struggling a little bit, figuring her macros. She just got started a couple weeks ago. I could go into hers then and kind of log some foods for her, but again, I don't know if it really has that functionality. It's something that I need to go back and explore because obviously they make updates and they make changes and I haven't really explored it in probably a year or two. So just see what the capabilities are. But all right, let's go ahead and get into this though. So I'm going to share my screen. See what this even looks like. I think that's right. Oh, allow Zoom to share your screen, system preferences, security. 1 second, guys. How the hell do you share your screen? Anybody know how to do this?
Should be a green button at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, and so I click on that. So this is my school laptop, so I don't know if that makes a difference. But so I click that though, click and share. So it's got a bunch of things pop up. So desktop 1 is what I'm doing. I hit share, then it says open system preferences, go to security and privacy to grant access. All right. I mean, it looks like it's granted access to it. Can you guys see my screen right now? No. This is going to be very frustrating if I can't do this. God damn it. Might just have to record this kind of on my own then and go in here and do it. So since it's a school laptop, they have some functionality on here that they don't allow. This is weird that they wouldn't do that though. Sorry. Contents of your screen. Well, wonderful.
Try to share mine. You can take control.
Do what?
I can try to share my screen and you can just take control.
How do I take control of that?
You have to allow me to share first. Somewhere I'm turned off.
Allow, so I can allow you to multi-pin, and I can allow you to record local files. Ask you to start video. Oh man, I love technology. Haley, you're a teacher. Chris, you're a teacher. How do you share your screen?
I only use Google Meet, so I can't help you.
Yeah. We had to go to Teams too.
Do what?
We had to change Teams also.
Oh, you guys. Okay, I get you. All right, Tim, I just allowed you to
Share.
share. Yes, I found that on there. On the. Okay, hold on a second. Now it seems like it's popping up. Can you guys see my screen now?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I don't know what I did different, but wonderful. All right, so we're here. We're into this thing. I did not want to scrap that. All right, so first off, let's go with the tools here that I have shared with you guys in the past. So this used to be like in just a Google Doc, and now it's in just a Google Sheet here. So macros and flexible dieting. So you should all have this. It's the DIY meal plan. So, kind of the perk of this right here is, and my goal with this is that I would love for you guys to be able to just, hey, I'm tired of my meals or whatever the case is, or maybe, after you're done working with me, just to be like, okay, I just want to create my own diet plan. I kind of have a good idea about what macros I need to hit or whatever the case is. Now, how do I go build this diet plan to kind of be aligned with that? So I'm not going to spend too much time kind of reading some of the things that I've written here on this. I just want to get into the actual macro side of things. So first off, start with the first thing. Protein. So 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories. 1 gram of carbs, 4 calories. 1 gram of fat, 9 calories. 1 gram of alcohol, 7 calories. So the calorie number that you get. So if you're eating 2,000 calories, the macros make up of those calories. All those macronutrients that have all those calories in them, they make that up. So as you can see here, fats are worth more. If we're looking at this as like a point system, fats are worth more than protein and carbohydrates. So if you have 100 grams of protein, that's 400 calories from protein. So if you're eating, 2,000 calories and 100, 400 calories of that is coming from protein, that means you're having 100 grams. Whereas fats, you can only have about 50, and that's going to be 5 times 9 is 45. So 450 calories would be 50 grams of fat, essentially. So again, we're just looking at this kind of in that number side of things. So, you don't necessarily ever need to track your calories so much as you do, your macros. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. So let me see if I can kind of move this stuff out of the way here. So flexible dieting, simply put, is counting your daily food intake by the macros that make up the food that you eat. So again, learning the value of the food that we're eating in order to help you reach your weight loss goals or muscle gain goals. Most diets are fad diets, short-term solutions, but most diets provide very little sustainability, and ultimately a sustainable lifestyle change is the only way to get the results you want and to actually be able to maintain them. So for instance, if you've ever tried another diet before, keto is a very, very popular one, especially now. It's a good diet, especially to get, blood sugar in check and things of that nature. And it works very, very well for some people, but it's just not something that's super sustainable. So the great thing about macros is that we don't ever have to cut out foods unless you just have a high insensitivity to something. You don't have to fully cut anything out. Now you might be moderating things. You might be going a little bit lower carb or maybe a little bit lower fat, depending on your goals, or higher protein. But you still have the freedom to do so. So for instance, if you have 100 grams of carbs, you could theoretically use Sour Patch Kids to get all of your 100 grams of carbs in. You could fit that in there. Now, is that what I recommend? Definitely not, because you're not going to get any fiber from that. You're not going to get any micronutrients from that. So again, even though the calories make sense and it does technically fit your carbs, if you're not getting in your other staples, you're just, your baseline micronutrients and fiber and things of that nature, then it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to do that. Now, every now and then you might be able to splurge a little bit more of that. You go to IHOP and use up a lot of your carbs on some pancakes, but then the next 6 days you lock back in and your carbs are a lot cleaner and more complex. And then you're back in check with this. But, okay. So, so flexibility is really what we're aiming for with this. So flexibility takes time to learn and get used to. But like I said before, unlike other diets, flexible dieting is a sustainable lifestyle. Let's move on a little bit down here. All right. So the first step to get yourself a macro calculation app like MyFitnessPal or MyMacros Plus. You can do both on there. This is where you're going to log each and every meal that you eat throughout the day. Now, we've kind of talked about this before about how we do this a little bit differently. What I highly recommend doing, especially if you're on a diet plan like this, is logging ahead of time. So who was on here? Haley, you said that you log your stuff kind of ahead of time before the week even kind of gets going. I'm somebody who I try to do it the day before, especially if the next day looks any different than what today was. Some people, they want to eat and then log whatever they ate. The problem with that is that you're not really planning ahead for the day, and you can quickly use up all your carbs or all your fats. And then it's noon and you've already ate all of your fat allotment for the day. So now you're going to struggle about, okay, well, I don't want to go over my fat, but now I have no other fat left to eat this day. So even something as simple and as lean as like chicken, or lean ground beef or eggs and things of that nature, those are also going to have fat in them. So technically, you're still probably going to go over your fat content. So that's why it's important that you're doing this kind of ahead of time versus just on the fly. Now, if your macros are super high, Dexter, I forgot exactly what macros you're eating right now, but your ceiling is very, very high because of where we've reverse dieted you to. So I don't know where you're at, but when you have 400 grams of carbs and you have 100 grams of fat, you have a lot more wiggle room. So you can kind of eat a little bit more on the fly. You still want to kind of build around. I try to build my day around like what I'm having for dinner, because that's something I can look forward to. I already know that, hey, my dinner is going to be higher fat tonight, or it's going to be higher carb. And then I can kind of work backwards and figure out the rest of the day. So doing it ahead of time, especially if you're on lower macros, is definitely a big, big thing. And especially if you're not really that experienced with tracking your macros. Let's move on here with this. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot on to the next page here. So macro tables. So everybody's had this for ever since, really started TLF. I've tried to add more to it. But so what this is just a good reference for you guys. So, again, on your diet plans, I want to go with the foods that you prefer eating. Obviously that's number one, because if you don't like it, then you're not going to stick to it. But obviously we all kind of get tired of what we're eating at different times. Some people like myself, I can eat the same lunch for a decade like I have. Some people couldn't even fathom doing that. So, for you, it's even more important especially if you need to mix up your foods frequently so that you can adhere to it and you can look forward to your meals, then it's even more important that you're tracking your macros so that you can do this correctly. So, on here, you see a big long list of things. Some of these are very lean. Some of these are not very lean. Whenever we're talking about lean, we want high protein and we want low fat. Now, not all your protein has to be very lean. But for instance, let's just identify here the leanest proteins on here. So just a grilled chicken breast, and this is all per 4 ounces of cooked protein. So chicken breast, only 4 grams of fat, and you can probably find it where it's less than that, but I just kind of go off of that basic number right there. So then we look at 80-20 ground beef. That has 28 grams of protein, but it also has 20 grams of fat. So you're shooting your fat, up, even though it's the same amount of protein or similar amount of protein, you also got 16 grams of fat extra. So that's why whenever we're dealing with ground beef, if you go to a cookout, generally they're going to use ground chuck, which is usually 75-25 or 80-20 like this. So it's already going to be a much higher fatty meat like that. So, just a burger at a grill out, if you're supposed to be a little bit lower fat and you're trying to watch it, maybe you want to have some potato salad and chips and things of that nature. Well, if you have all that has high fat and you have the high fat burger, now you're just shooting that number up through the roof. So again, all right, so we're looking for lean proteins here. So we got chicken breast with the 4 fat, and then we come down to top round sirloin steak. So this is a leaner steak. It's not quite as lean as that chicken breast, but it's a much better option than, say, the 80-20 ground beef would be. Now, I do have 93.7 up here, a little bit higher, and that has 10 grams of fat in it. So you could find a 97.3, and it's going to be much more comparable to that chicken breast. But 93.7 is generally the easiest thing to find in terms of leanness. So then we go down to tuna, just regular tuna out of the can. I think those cans are usually 2 or 3 ounces, maybe 2.5 ounces or so. But so this is 4 ounces, obviously. So it's 28 grams of protein in that tuna right there. Same thing with cod. Cod's another really, really easy one with that. Tilapia is another one that's super lean. But then you come down here to salmon. So another fish in this situation, but this is going to have 14 grams of fat per 4 ounces. So you're kind of understanding here, it's important that you're recognizing what are really good lean protein sources, what are protein sources that have a little bit higher fat in it, and those are going to be more interchangeable. So on your diet plan, if you've got chicken, you want to go find one of these other lean options to substitute it with if you want to substitute it. Or same thing with the protein, with the like ground beef, 5 ground beef on there. Salmon's going to be a fairly interchangeable thing on there. Same thing with eggs. Maybe you don't even want a meat meal like that. Maybe you want to, replace that meal with some eggs. So if you really want to go lean, you want to do egg whites. If you want to do a higher fat and protein, then boom, you can just do regular whole eggs. So I'm not going to go through every little one of these on here, but this is super important that you guys start using if you don't know how to track your macros very well. Because again, the more you're looking at food labels, the more you're just browsing this stuff and looking it over, the more it's going to stick with you, the more you're going to be able to recognize, obviously, what is going to kind of suit my purposes with this. So we come down to the next one. This is carbs, grains, starches, and fruit. So our main carb sources with this. And so most of this on here is going to be cooked. Things like oatmeal, because you're not going to bulk that up. You're not going to bulk prep oatmeal for the whole week like you would rice or potatoes or something else. So we just do regular dry in that situation. You can do a packet of oats, or you can just do, half a scoop of dry oatmeal with that, and then add the water and add whatever else you're going to have with it. And I just realized these numbers on here, this one's actually wrong here. It should be 27.3, not the other way around. So let's look at jasmine white rice right here. So a cup of that is going to be 2 grams of protein, 22 grams of carbs. So then we would just double that. So if you're going to do a full cup of rice, then it's just double that. But again, like most of these carbs on here that we're looking at are going to be really, really low fat, as you're seeing with this. There's really not too many pure carb out there that is going to have very, very much fat. I'm seeing a couple of typos on here. I'll need to go back here and double check some of this. But so then we look at, so here's one that I really like to kind of utilize here. So we're looking at this 4 ounce cooked russet potato. So that's going to be similar to your your white rice or your brown rice or anything of that nature. And those can be fairly comparable to make an adjustment. Here's another one with this. So if you're going to be cooking pasta, so if you're cooking pasta for the whole week, kind of like Dexter, I know I put that on your diet plan before. If you're going to cook it all in bulk for the whole week, then you want to do 8-ounce cooked, or you want to look at that cooked side of things. If you're just going to do one serving, then we want to look at the dry, because then that's going to be easier to weigh out, to measure, make sure you're kind of in check with this. So again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but you're just wanted to, familiarize yourself with these. And obviously if you're tracking your macros, it just makes things a lot easier. So I'm going to scoot on over here and get off of this. Like I said, you already have all these, so look through those. So here's a diet plan. So really quick situation that I had the other day. So I'm obviously in comp prep right now. I'm about 3 or 4 weeks out from my show. And my coach, Caleb, was going to change my diet plan on Monday. So I did a high carb day on Monday. He didn't give me a diet plan for that specific one. Prior to that, he'd give me a low day and a high day to kind of follow. And so that's what I base all my meals off of. But so he said, all right, do 400 grams of carbs today, but then the rest of this week, so the next 3 days, I want you to go 300 protein, 100 carb, and 50 grams of fat. So I've never went this low. This is not going to be a long-term thing. He's just going to try to pull off some weight as fast as he can with it. So he said he was going to get me a diet plan on Monday, and he got caught up at work with clients and everything else. And I'm obviously good enough with this stuff, so I kind of make that adjustment. So I was hoping for that on Monday. I never got it. So then on Tuesday morning, I knew I had to get up before I went to work that day and figure out what the hell my food's going to be. Well, fortunately for myself, I planned ahead. I had all my chicken prepped up. I had my avocados on hand. I had my bananas on hand. I had my rice prepped out for the week. So boom, I had all of my staples I needed. But what I didn't have was my actual meals kind of prepped out with this. And so what he said to do, he was like, hey, I just want you to do with your 5 meals, I just want you to break up your carbs. So you get 100 grams of fat. I want you to do 20 grams of carbs with each of those 5 meals. And for your fat, I want you to do 10 grams of fat with each of those 5 meals to get in your 50 grams. So I was like, all right, now I got to go completely change my diet plan to make sure this thing worked right here. So I'm actually going to do it with you really quick with this. So these are the titles of my foods right here. Let me go back here. These are the titles of my meals just to make it simple in terms of tracking my macros. I've got an egg meal. I got a couple chicken meals on here. I had a turkey and a beef and a post-workout protein shake. So those are the names of what I have on here. So something I can do if my meals are going to be similar to what they were. So this is looking at what tomorrow is going to be. If my meals are similar, I can go to the quick tools, and you have this. It's used like the 3 little dots on your MyFitnessPal, like on each meal, and you can copy from date, you can copy from today, and all those types of things. So I'm going to do copy from date. So I'm going to go to Tuesday, and it should just copy over. Weird. Yeah, so it copied over my meal from Tuesday, which was 50 grams of, looks like we only got 10 minutes, so we'll need to kind of speed this up a little bit. So I my protein shake in there, my 8 ounce of egg whites and chia seeds that I mixed in with my protein shake. So that just logged in there. But now for the other meals, I kind of need to go figure it out. So again, we're heading for 300 protein, 100 carbs, 50 grams of fat. So then now I need to go log in this meal right here. So on my diet plan with this, I'm going to end up doing chicken breast. So we see the serving size here. So 1 ounces, 1 ounces, 1 ounces with all this different stuff over here. And I'm doing grilled chicken breast. But let's pretend for a minute that I didn't have all this stuff already logged in here. I'm the first time user. So in that situation, I want to do cooked chicken breast to go find my entry that I'm going to use for this. And then all you got to do is just start kind of clicking it and checking and seeing what it says here. Now this is much more irritating actually on the website than it is on the app. But so I'm going to change the serving size to 1 ounce. And I know based off of like my diet plan on there that it's going to be about 7 or 8 ounces or 7 or 8 grams of protein per 1 ounce of grilled chicken, and about 1 gram of fat. So this is close, but the protein is a little bit high for what I know is actually in it. So then I'll come down and I'll try to find a different one. Nutrition info, see what it says here. So I'll go back to 1 ounce again. Okay, now this one says 9 grams of protein, but 0 grams of fat. So I'm assuming that there's about 1 gram of fat per ounce. So then it's just a guess and check thing. Boom, here it is. I got cooked chicken breast. I got 1 gram of fat for it, and I got 8 grams of protein for it. So So I'm going to add this food to diary, but I need to make sure my serving size is on point. So I'm going to do 7 servings of 1 ounce, so 7 total ounces. And so then I add food to diary. Now, again, this looks different on the app, but all similar kind of setup with this right here. So that gave me my 56 grams of protein for that meal and my 7 grams of fat. And then what I can do is like, all right, I like that one right there. So when I go to add food, it should just have chicken pulled right up into this. And then I can go ahead and log that one as well. And boom. Oh, so this actually logged a different one because it didn't come up right away. But I'm going to go ahead and leave that though. So I've got my chicken in there. I'm going to got to do the same thing for my rice. So jasmine, cooked jasmine white rice. All right. So usually a green check mark means that it's going to be fairly accurate. So I found that one. And with that meal, I was just going to be doing a 1/4 cup. So that's going to give me about 11 grams of carbs for that. It should anyway. So that would be, so 1 serving of rice is going to give me, that right there, it said uncooked. So that was going to be a 1/2 cup uncooked, which is actually 1 full cup of cooked. So I want to come back up here and change that to 1 cup. And so boom, there we go. And I'm going to change that to 0.25 if it'll allow me. And boom. So a 1/4 cup of rice, 11 grams of carbs right there. So then I'm going to go ahead and add that food to diary. And boom, it's logged right in there with that chicken meal as well. And then I was going to do, so I also have black beans on my diet plan. So add food, come up here, type in black beans. And actually with that one, even though it's going to be canned that I'm using, I'm just going to type in cooked. That way it's not raw black beans. Let's see what this one right here says. So again, this is when I'm utilizing either the diet plan that I gave you, and you're looking for what is your 1/4 cup of black beans or whatever the case is. Or if you don't have on a diet plan, you're just trying to figure this out for yourself and you're not sure what the accurate count is for your black beans. That's when you want to go over to Google and type it in. Nutrition facts for cooked black beans. So this is if you didn't have this on your diet plan already, but you're like, hey, I really like black beans. I want to do some black beans. So then you come over here, and sometimes like if you're like, oh, these numbers don't look anything accurately, then okay, then you want to go use a couple different references to see what that number is. And again, once you have this logged, you don't have to do this again. So this is right here is saying that 1/2 cup of canned black beans is 20 grams of carbs and 7.3 grams of protein. So I know that if I'm going with a 1/4 cup today, because I'm going to do that for a couple meals, then I know that's going to be about 10 grams of carbs. So boom, my coach wanted me to have 20 grams of carbs per meal today. So my chicken meal, when we come back over here, is going to have that 20 grams of carbs. So I add this in here and we'll go look at that meal. So boom. So that put me at 22 grams of carbs. But again, we don't have to be absolutely perfect. If I looked at that and said, well, shit, I'm 2 grams of carbs off, what do I do? Just leave it. It's not a huge deal. You're within a couple of grams. That's why I give you guys a range of carbs and a range of proteins and a range of fats, because you don't have to, you're not going to be perfect with this. So then I'm like, all right, cool. So I like that one. So actually I'm going to come down here and take out this next chicken one. So there's my meal 2 right there. Chicken, white rice, and black beans. So I'm actually going to do the same exact meal for the next one. So I'm going to do copy from date. See if it will allow me. So on yours, on the app, it would allow me to copy that straight down. Let's see, copy. All right, there we go. So now I can copy this chicken meal down to my other chicken meal, and that should auto load in there. And that took me back a day for some odd reason. I don't know what the hell that just did. So I'm going to go ahead and add it in here anyway. So I know I want to do my white rice again, my chicken, and my black beans. And then it looks like I can just add checked. And so boom, I've got my third meal logged in there as well. Now another meal. So I've kind of changed some of my meals with what he originally had on there for me. So now I'm going to do cooked, and I'm not going to put this on anybody's diet plan, but cooked beef liver. It's awful if you've never had it before. I used curry powder on the last one, and that actually helped a whole lot. I actually somewhat enjoyed it. So now when you go look at the nutrition info, go to 1 ounce. I'm doing 4 ounces of that with that one meal, and boom. So you obviously won't know, and I won't even type this in on that DIY meal plan page with other macros on it, but that's about right for what I know that is in cooked beef liver. So 6 grams of protein and 5 grams of fat. So I'm going to go ahead and log that right there, add to food diary, and perfect. Now I've got that logged in there. Now I'm not going to go through the rest of it because I only have about a minute and a half left on this because our technology issues there. But so essentially I would end up doing 3 more ounces of chicken with that same beef liver meal. I'm going to add my avocado to that as well. And I'm also going to add maybe a touch of rice in there as well to help me get my carbs in. And then for my post-workout meal down here, 2 scoops of protein, a scoop of creatine, which is going to be no macros, and then a banana on there as well. And that's going to line me up pretty much within about 5 to 10 grams of both protein, carbs, and fats. And so that was me. I figured that out within about 5 minutes right before I meal prepped on Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. and I was out of the door by 6:20 a.m. So that's with years and years of experience. I know exactly what to do and how to adjust it to make sure I'm on point. But so then the key with this is you kind of do the same thing. You guess and check with this. So you take your diet plan, and then what you're going to do is you're going to go try to type in the exact same things you see on there. Now, Alyssa, again, sorry to talk to you specifically, but maybe you and I can hop on another Zoom call here at some point so I can kind of help you with this a little bit more, and I can record that as well to kind of post it, just so I can show you how to kind of change the goals and change what it's telling you in the app, what your goals are, because I know that kind of will help you out a little bit as well. But again, just try to compare the entries that you're doing to the ones that's on the diet plan, try to find the closest ones to that number, and then boom, you're good. And if it's within a few grams, again, if you're following diet plan pretty well, you're going to be on point anyway. But this is how you start learning how to track those macros. And then think of other foods as well that sounds good to you, that you want to eat for that day or for that week, and then plan it in, try to fit it into those macros. And the more you guess and check and play with those numbers, the better off it's going to be. I think it's going to kick me out of here, though. So I appreciate you guys being here.